Trump said Iran could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. Iran's response: it is Trump who has 20 hours to surrender. Petrochemical plants burn in Saudi Arabia. US bases hit in Kuwait. A warship retreats into the Indian Ocean. Both sides have deadlines, and neither side is blinking first. The rhetoric surrounding the escalating US-Iran conflict has taken a sharply confrontational turn, with both sides issuing stark warnings that underline how rapidly the crisis is intensifying. A senior Iranian voice has now directly countered threats from US President Donald Trump, flipping one of his most controversial lines back at Washington. The remark by Mahdi Mohammadi, strategic advisor to the Iranian parliament speaker, follows a stark warning from Trump that the United States could launch sweeping strikes on Iran's civilian infrastructure if Tehran fails to meet Washington's demands by the April 7th deadline.
It is Trump who has about 20 hours to either surrender to Iran or his allies will return to the Stone Age. We will not back down.
At a White House press conference, Trump said the US could target power plants and bridges, escalating pressure on Iran to abandon its nuclear ambitions and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global oil route.
The entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
Iran, however, has dismissed those warnings outright. Ebrahim Zolfakari, speaking on behalf of the Khatam al-Anbiya central headquarters, described the US position as rooted in frustration and failure.
The rude rhetoric, arrogance, and baseless threats of the delusional US president, arising from the deadlock he faces and aimed at justifying the repeated defeats of the US military, will have no effect on the continuation of offensive and crushing operations by the fighters of Islam against US and Israeli enemies, and will not repair the humiliation of the United States in West Asia. With the help of Almighty God, every action you take will add another defeat to your previous defeats.
These exchanges are unfolding against the backdrop of a widening regional conflict. Reports indicate that Iranian forces have launched a series of retaliatory strikes across the Gulf. In Saudi Arabia's industrial hub of Jubail, missile and drone attacks reportedly triggered massive fires at facilities linked to Sabib, one of the world's largest petrochemical producers. The site is strategically significant, accounting for a notable share of global output. Further strikes have reportedly targeted US-linked military infrastructure in Kuwait. According to American officials cited in media reports, at least 15 US personnel were injured in a drone strike on Ali Al Salem Air Base, though most have since returned to duty. The broader toll of US injuries in the conflict has reportedly reached 373, with several in serious condition.
In the second stage of Wave 98, the American Al Adiri base in Kuwait was subjected to missile and drone attacks by the IRGC Aerospace Force. As a result of this action, the helicopter storage facility and the accommodation of the invading forces of the American terrorist army were destroyed. The gathering and command control centers at the American Victoria base in Baghdad were effectively targeted through successful and powerful operations by the Islamic Resistance of Iraq. 5 hideouts and organization centers of terrorist groups in northern Iraq were also effectively attacked by drones after intelligence identification.
The IRGC also claimed that Iran's forces had hit a US amphibious assault helicopter carrier.
In the first part of this operation this morning, the IRGC Navy fighters targeted the container ship SDN-7 Ares, belonging to the Zionist regime, with a cruise missile which, after being destroyed, caught fire. The amphibious assault helicopter carrier of the terrorist U.S. Army with the hull number LHA-7 was targeted by offensive projectiles, which, after this wave, was forced to retreat to the depths of the Indian Ocean.
The situation now reflects a dangerous cycle of escalation. Washington is threatening large-scale infrastructure strikes. Tehran is responding with regional attacks on energy, military, and logistical assets. With deadlines looming and rhetoric hardening on both sides, the risk of a far wider confrontation is growing. What began as a targeted conflict is increasingly resembling a multi-front regional crisis, with consequences that could extend well beyond the Middle East. Israel says it has struck one of Iran's most critical economic assets, targeting what it described as the country's largest petrochemical facility, in a major escalation of infrastructure-focused attacks. According to a statement by Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, the Israeli Air Force carried out a strike on facilities in Asaluya, a key target responsible for about 50% of the country's petrochemical production.
The IDF has now struck with full force the largest petrochemical facility in Iran, located in Asaluya, a key target responsible for about 50% of the country's petrochemical production, following last week's attack on the second main facility.
Iranian media, including Tasnim news agency, reported that multiple petrochemical plants were hit, including the Jam and Damavand facilities, along with critical utility providers supplying electricity, water, and oxygen to the industrial zone. Tasnim, however, said that Pars Petrochemical was not harmed. Power outages across the Asaluya complex are expected to halt operations until damaged infrastructure is restored. Katz said the strikes had effectively crippled Iran's petrochemical export capacity.
Currently, both facilities, which together account for around 85% of Iran's petrochemical exports, are out of service and non-operational. This represents a severe economic blow to the Iranian regime, amounting to tens of billions of dollars. The petrochemical industry is a central engine for funding the activities of the Revolutionary Guards and for building Iran's military power.
The strikes mark a shift toward economic warfare, targeting revenue streams linked to Iran's military and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Katz also confirmed that Israeli leadership has ordered continued strikes on Iran's national infrastructure.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and I have instructed the IDF to continue striking, with full force, the national infrastructure of the Iranian terror regime. The Iranian terror regime will find that continued aggression against Israel and the cowardly criminal firing toward Israeli civilians will only deepen the economic and strategic damage it suffers and lead to the collapse of its capabilities.
Tehran has responded with sharp rhetoric. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi accused the United States and Israel of targeting scientific and civilian infrastructure. In an ex-post, Araghchi said,
Israeli-U.S. aggressors have bombed the MIT of Iran. This follows attacks on other universities. 1,400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad said that even if knowledge was situated in the distant Pleiades, Iranians would be capable of attaining it. Aggressors will see our might.
Meanwhile, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said that a U.S. amphibious assault ship, identified as LHA-7 and carrying more than 5,000 sailors and Marines, was struck in a lightning-fast missile barrage, forcing it to retreat deep into the southern Indian Ocean. In its statement, the IRGC claimed strikes on Israeli-linked shipping, U.S. military infrastructure in Kuwait, and a drone production facility tied to the UAE and Israel. Iranian military officials say the campaign will continue until what they describe as a deterrent threshold is achieved.
The enemy's objectives have clearly not been achieved after more than a month of unchecked aggression. The Islamic Republic of Iran's system stands with authority, has responded to threats, and in some cases has been able to reciprocally operationalize threats against the opposing side. The opposing side has in fact been defeated.
With both sides now targeting critical infrastructure, energy, military, and industrial. The conflict is expanding beyond the battlefield into a broader economic and strategic confrontation.